Hi, I'm Ben, welcome back to my channel. We are now well and truly into autumn, or fall if you're on the other side of the Atlantic, or actually spring if you're on the other side of the equator. But whatever you call it, I love these transitional seasons. Although they're kind of artificial bookends we put around certain times of the year, autumn and spring feel to me much more like periods of great change than summer or winter. In summer we roast and in winter we freeze, but in autumn we move from one to the other. And that creates space to notice things, to physically recognise time passing in the colours of the leaves or the nights noticeably getting longer. And noticing things, well, that's what reading is for. It's perfect fodder for a good story. And so, although I'm not the biggest seasonal reader, I do think autumn is a wonderful time to take stock, to read those reflective books about change around us and within us. Plus, it's spooky season, so it's a good time to read any scary stuff you've been meaning to get to. And so what I want to do in this video is create the perfect autumn reading list for you and for me. I'm hoping it's a list that we are all going to be able to fall for. Of course, if you want to just light a pumpkin spice candle and submerge yourself in a bath full of pumpkin spice latte, read a book like this, well, more power to you. But personally, I find that a little bit too laser focused on targeting autumn coziness. And that gives me the same sort of shivers that I get when Ed Sheeran writes yet another song specifically aimed at weddings or, God forbid, funerals. No, in this video, we are looking for a little bit more nuance, a little bit more subtlety, and books that evoke the feelings of autumn without explicitly hammering you over the head with them. I decided I couldn't do this alone, so I've enlisted some help, and I've asked some of my favourite fellow booktubers to lend a hand. I asked them to tell me what autumn means to them, and if they wanted to also recommend a book to match that vibe, well, that's a bonus. We are going to meet each of these booktubers, hear their suggestions, and then I'm going to make an additional reading recommendation that I think fits that vibe. Some of these books I've read, some of them which are still on my TBR pile. So get your notepads ready, get a Goodreads or a Storygraph tab open, because you are going to have lots and lots of suggestions to take away. I really love what everyone has come up with and I'm so excited to share it with you. So let's dive right in with our first guest.
Hello, my name is Sophie. I am Bibliosophie or Bibliosophie if you watch my channel. So what is autumn to me? I'm not gonna invent new things here. For me, autumn is a time of change, of course, and it's a time of new beginnings. It's the beginning of the school year, it's the beginning of the artistic and cultural calendar, so autumn has always been a big start for me in my own life, but it's also, of course, a wearing down of the year. So what is the difference between autumnal change and springtime change? I think spring change is more effusive, it's an outward flowering, and the type of fluorescence that we have in autumn is maybe kind of also going inward, where we're rotting a little bit, where we're preparing to kind of bundle down. So with that in mind, the book that I'm going to associate with autumn is Paradise Rot by Hval. This is a short book that contains a lot of, for me, autumnal things. It is around a school year. It has a school theme. It is sort of a coming of age in a way, coming to sexuality. It's about friendship and relationships between people and the very messy boundary between self and others. It has a lot of kind of grody imagery, so it's a little bit creepy, very mushroomy, very growth-y, maybe gross-y as well. I think it contains a lot of things that I associate with autumn.
Yeah, I really loved what Sophie had to say about autumn there. Her feelings about it being a time of change really chime with my own. When she said mushroomy, I've got to admit the first book that came to mind was Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno-Garcia, but I don't think that's a very good book, so I will not be recommending that one to you. The second book that came to mind is sadly another one that I just did not like very much, and that is The Doloriad by Missouri Williams. This is definitely gross, and it's about the messy boundaries between people, about hunkering down after the end of civilization as we know it. But yeah, this is also, although I'm holding it up, not going to be my pick because I think it strives for a lot and is ultimately a little bit too much, a little bit too hard to comprehend. So let's put that one down as well. My actual suggestion is going to be A Simple Intervention by Yael Inokai, translated from German by Marielle Sutherland. And the reason I've picked this is because it's about a nurse who works in a hospital offering this groundbreaking surgical procedure on the brain where they can free people from psychological disorders. But it has this academic vibe as well. It's set in a hospital that's using cutting-edge technologies, and the nurses live in like a nurses' quarters that feels quite close to university dorm rooms. And there's also a sapphic love story as part of this, so it's very much about deflowering rather than flowering. The first line also reads, October, a time for ghosts. So it seems pretty perfect to me. I think it sounds just great. I'm really excited to read it, and I think lots of people would be really interested in this book. Let's hear it from another booktuber, shall we?
Hey, hi, hello, it's your boy Nate. I read books because reading is sexy, and if you're not reading, you're not sexy. Good boy Ben asked, what is fall? As a chronic overthinker, I think. So, I thought fall is meant for much thinking. We're back in the academic space, we're back on campus. What's a better way than making yourself so sexy and be eloquent? I recently read Susan Sontag's On Women, and though this might not be the best essay collection to start with Sontag's works, I think a nice essay collection would be great to spruce up your vocabulary, make your points stronger. It's also Sontag's prose, I feel, that is really pointed. You can learn a lot in the way she pushes toward points, and there's an immense clarity to her voice that makes us better speakers. In an interview with John Berger, Susan Sontag had said that we can always rewrite, but we can never re-talk. In the constant rewriting, and the rewriting that you see in Sontag's works, that you can better talk, and in essence, attempt to re-talk. Do Susan Sontag. Think as kink is in. Alright Ben, take it away.
First off, I love that I am both good boy Ben, but also I read, so by definition must be sexy. Perhaps to my shame, I haven't really read many essay collections, so I don't have another to add to the pile, but I do like books that make me think, and one book that came to mind that made me think an awful lot was Trust Exercise by Susan Choi. Now, I think this is a deeply underrated book, which is maybe a little odd to say considering it won the National Book Award in 2019. But I think a lot of people dislike this book, whereas I absolutely love it. It's got a bit of an academic slant to it because it's about two characters, Sarah and David, who meet at performing arts school and start a young adolescent relationship. And I think a lot of people get hung up on the fact that at the start of this book, all of the characters that we meet at this school, they are, to be honest, quite annoying. But if you persevere, I think you are richly rewarded with this book that has so much to say about storytelling and who gets to tell stories and how they are spun, how we reflect on them. And I really can't say much more without spoiling it. I just think this is a fantastic, mind-blowing little read. Let's get ourselves another recommendation.
Hello, hi, what's up? It's me, Karen, your favorite booktuber, and I'm so excited to be part of this little project that Ben has put together. The question that we were all asked was, what is fall, what is autumn? And I thought, why not just give them New England autumn? This is leaves changing, falling, crunching, dying, death, despair. And at the same time, for many people, I think I'm not going to be the first, nor will I be the last to say that autumn gives big back to school energy, but I'm not back to school. I haven't been back to school, and I won't be back to school probably ever again. And that's okay. Because life is about learning and loving and living life as much as it is about death and despair. But the book that I wanted to recommend is actually a book that predominantly takes place in summer, but I just read it at the tail end of September, and I thought that it was great. It's about a woman contemplating her familial relationships while she's on a summer holiday in Germany with her family, her very overbearing brother, sister-in-law, and her quite naive young niece. And she's really contemplating, how does one live? What makes life worth living, and how do you forge a life of your own against familial expectations. Having said all that, giving all that preamble, the book that I'm talking about is Rhine Journey by Schlee. This is, if you couldn't guess, not nonfiction. No, that's a lie. This is fiction. It was published in 1980, but it's actually about the Victorian time, space, age, and great sentences, really psychological, very fun, perfect to ease you into fall. And with that, take it away, Ben.
Man, how nice is Kieran's background? What a treat. Who knew that crunching, dying, death, despair could look so beautiful? I also love the suggestion of Rhine Journey. It's one that's been on my radar recently because it's also been reprinted in the UK by Daunt Books. And I actually believe it was shortlisted for the Booker back in 1981. My recommendation for this one is another book from the 1980s, which is The Assault by Harry Mulisch, translated from Dutch by Claire Nicolas White. This book takes place right at the end of World War II in Nazi-occupied Holland, where a Nazi collaborator is assassinated on the street, and then in retaliation some people's houses are burned down. The book is told in a number of episodes that explore the repercussions of that over a number of decades, and it's full to the brim with that reflective storytelling that Kieran was talking about with Rhine Journey. It has lots of family secrets and people protecting one another, complex relationships, and in the end we learn the truth of what really happened that night. I think this is a terrific book and would highly recommend it. Let's move on to our next booktuber.
For a full recommendation, I would recommend some movies like perhaps When Harry Met Sally or You Can Count on Me or something like that. Unfortunately, in Australia, it is spring, so I have to recommend the movie Lockjaw, Rise of the Kulev Serpent.
Don't forget, at the end of the day, it's just a snake.
Lockjaw, Rise of the Kulev Serpent is about Alan and his friend Becky, and they steal a creepy wooden box with a powerful voodoo stick inside from a voodooistic neighbor, is what IMDb says.
Call it voodoo.
Grab me something good from between the legs,
DMX is also in this movie, and there's also a Kulev serpent in it. This movie has a loose 2.5 out of 10 on IMDb. The poster, as you can see here, features a hand, and it also features the eye of the Kulev serpent. I have to say, the scene when Cade releases the Kulev serpent using the Kulev stick. Oh my god, that woman went to the fucking moon. And only when watching this can you celebrate a truly Australian spring.
Please don't ask me why we are filming this unflatteringly close up, or why that was a film suggestion and not a book. But you know what? I think I've got the perfect recommendation. Right, like Lockjaw, Rise of the Kulev Serpent, this suggestion contains a monster, it's in pursuit of a character, and it is by an Australian author. I am suggesting From the Wreck by Jane Rawson. This is a book that's been on my wish list for years, and it's actually in the making of this video that I was motivated to finally pick up a copy. I don't know too much about it, to be honest, because I've heard that it is best to go in blind because it is very surprising and beautifully written and just a real wild ride. But the cover does give away that we've got a tentacled kraken on our hands, and I can't think of anything better for spooky season. So that's my recommendation. Do you fancy another one?
I'm actually really excited that you asked this question. I am an October baby. Autumn is my season. This is my time to shine. I absolutely love autumn. For me, fall means the crunchy leaves on the ground when you take a stroll in the woods or through a quaint New England town. Fall is that last bit of beauty before we fall into winter, get reborn into spring. Fall is everything. But most importantly, fall is spooky season. Fall is the time where I want to get wrapped up in a book filled with like witches and vampires, and there's maybe a good love story. So like A Discovery of Witches. Absolutely love this series. It's so stinking good. But then I also love like a really slowly paced, exquisitely written story that's gonna creep me out, like The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. And the audiobook, phenomenal. Like, so good. Put that on, knit a sweater, drink some tea, and enjoy your spooky season. But then the other thing I love about autumn and fall and reading in particular is diving into a book that I love, that feels like a warm hug that I can go back to over and over and over again, and I still love it the same as I did the first time I read it, and that would be Rebecca by Daphne and Maurier. If somehow you haven't read this and you are watching me in this clip, dear viewers, please read this. It's so good. Those are my thoughts on autumn, and I'm really grateful that you asked me.
Alyssa is always very generous, so that's why you got a 3-for-1 deal on recommendations there, and some lovely B-roll. My recommendation to her is Prophet Song by Paul. I can't even finish saying it. She hates this book. This is just a joke. I don't hate it though. I think it's really good. So it's good that we can disagree and still be friends. No, I was trying to think a little bit more of things that were explicitly otherworldly or Halloweeny. And what came to mind were a couple of David Mitchell books, specifically The Bone Clocks and Slade House. This is a big chunkster that came out first, and this is a slim companion novella. I actually read this one first, and so this, I think, stands alone pretty well. And why I think this is suitable is because it is about a manor house, and that house is kind of out of sight, out of mind for most people who see it. It just eludes the attention of anyone walking by. And we see a series of characters who come into contact with the house, are invited into it, and we find out what happens to them over a number of years. There's something vampiric going on, which I won't say any more about without spoiling, but I found this absolutely captivating. I think David Mitchell is a master of voice, and we get a number of different characters, all with very, very distinct, exceptional, but believable voices. So I can't recommend this enough for a short, spooky read. And if you do like it, well, you've got a chunkster to turn to afterwards. Let's look to another booktuber for another recommendation.
Hello! So Ben, when I think of autumn, I think of Spice Bomb Extreme. Spice Bomb Extreme is a bold and intense fragrance, known for its warm and spicy profile. It opens with a blast of fiery black pepper, which quickly blends into aromatic notes of cumin and cinnamon, creating a rich, masculine warmth. As it develops, the scent deepens with tobacco and vanilla, adding a smoky sweetness that softens the spice without losing its edge. There's also a hint of lavender that balances the composition, giving it a subtle freshness. Overall, Spice Bomb Extreme is a powerful, long-lasting fragrance that exudes strength, sensuality, and sophistication, making it ideal for the colder months. And it's for this reason I recommend Lapvona by Ottessa Moshfegh. In essence, Lapvona and Spice Bomb Extreme share a visceral and uncompromising quality. Whether it's through the senses or storytelling, both leave a strong and lingering impression that is just perfect for the colder months.
Well, I thought Spice Bomb Extreme was like an AI generated ad then, but given the lettering is not messed up, maybe it's not. Maybe it's real. Any Spice Bomb wearers out there? My suggestion for Mr. Roro Reads is going to be something completely different from Lapvona. It is Fat City by Leonard Gardner. The reason I've chose this is because I think it does a lot of the same things that Spice Bomb does, has the same flavours and fragrances. It covers the masculine physical tribulations of people in the boxing ring, but also outside the boxing ring, as one of the characters is dealing with the relationship with his wife. And that's the same sort of balance of that opening blast and the masculine warmth and that hint of lavender. I'm almost starting to believe this myself. I do also note that Roro had a bit of a problem with Headshot by Rita Bullwinkle, so I wonder if this is the boxing novel that can pull it back for him. Let's now turn our attention to another booktuber for another autumnal read.
Hi, my name is Yana. I'm a modern ajumma, and Ben asked me what fall reading means to me, and I immediately go for the cozy vibes. Straight off of summer, I want to start getting into like a really cozy tone of voice in my writers, but I also don't want to sacrifice like any substance, and I also feel like going a little bit darker than summer at least. And so for that, I recommend Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. It is a very slim read. You could read this in one sitting, but there's a lot of meat on these skinny bones. It talks about the depths of human deplorability and murder, of course. So I highly recommend this for your fall spooky season, getting into the cozy vibes with good old-fashioned human evil.
I think a lot of people are probably going to be nodding along to the idea of wanting some cocktail of coziness and nastiness. And my suggestion for some good old-fashioned human evil is Perfume by Patrick Suskind, translated from German by John E. Woods. This one's about a boy growing up in the slums of Paris in the 19th century, and he has a very gifted sense of smell and grows up to become a perfumer. And now that I'm saying this, I'm feeling like this should have been the recommendation for Spice Bomb Extreme, but we are where we are. One thing leads to another, and this guy becomes a bit of a murderer. I actually have not read this one yet, but I've heard great things about it, and I do have it on my Kindle lined up to read at some point soon.
What does autumn mean to me? Never-ending washing. Washing that never gets dried. It's sunny, so you put your washing out, and then you do the school run, and it rains, and your washing's wet, and you bring it in, and you put it on the clothes rack, and then it's sunny, and you take your washing out, and then it gets wet. And so, living with 3 boys and a dog, my washing never ends, and my kitchen looks like some sort of clothes horse Jenga game. And so, what book could I recommend that gives never-ending Jenga washing vibes? The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. It is never-ending. You're never quite sure what's going on. The pieces are constantly moving. There are more men that don't do their own washing than you can shake a stick at, and so I think the Count of Monte Cristo is a great shout for autumn vibes.
Gemma, I am very pleased that you were able to get that off of your chest, and I don't want to make you feel jealous, but in this household, we all play our part in doing the laundry. Your description got me thinking about books that are interminably long and about men just not getting on with stuff. And I thought, what sums that up better than the phallic symbolism of taking centuries to build a cathedral? And so my suggestion is The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett, which is, all about building a cathedral in Kingsbridge, and it's 1,000 pages long. The way I'm describing this actually sounds quite disparaging, but I've heard only amazing things about this book, and it's supposed to be surprisingly gripping despite its subject matter. So I'm very excited to one day read this, and it will remain sitting on my shelves until I get around to it. Let's move on though to another recommendation, and I will maybe leave this laundry for Matt to sort out.
Hello, I'm Bob. Autumn for me is quite a fun part of the year, partly because I suffer and melt all the way through summer. I'm much more naturally born for winter. So autumn is that kind of nice season where I'm still out and about doing things. It's kind of cozy, but you're very aware that as the seasons are changing, the kind of, particularly in the UK, in theory, everything gets kind of beautiful and like brown and dappled and all of that kind of thing. In principle, it just rains, really. That's really what happens. But in theory, it's the sort of changing of kind of, like an end of one season and kind of almost the sort of slow shutting down of things. I was going to say the slow shutting down of life, which was very dramatic. And then leading into this kind of period of rest and quiet and reflection of winter. And so there's this sort of flurry of last activity, and then it slowly gets quiet. And I think that's the part I really love about autumn, is the kind of getting cozy, but also knowing that you're getting slowly towards the part where you can just wind down and stop. And so it feels really quite special to me for that reason. Also, cinnamon-based things, they're great.
Yeah, Bob's description of the weather in autumn in the UK is pretty on the money, and sadly, reasonably accurate for summer as well. My recommendation for Bob is a fairly recent release. It is Julia Armfield's latest novel, Private Rights, because it is set in a world, a dystopic future, where it just does not stop raining. It's about 3 sisters who come together when their father dies, and they uncover some family secrets. I think it's a loose retelling of King Lear as well. I still haven't gotten around to this, but I am really excited for it. It did come out in the summer, but I feel like autumn seems to be a much more appropriate season for it. So maybe I'm going to queue this up very soon. Let's move on then to our final booktuber.
What does autumn mean to me? Every year I buy a candle. I like this candle. It's the White Company winter candle, and we like candles.
Well, ignoring the violence of picking a winter candle as your autumn vibe, I do think I see what Kieran is going for there. And that's like a bit of fun, but also pretty freaky and creepy, and I think I've got just the suggestion. I would recommend Come Closer by Sarah Gran, and I think it's really funny, it's quite provocative, and I think I can sum it up best just by reading you the opening of this book. Gather round, children, it's demonic story time. In January, I had a proposal due to my boss, Leon Fields, on a new project. We were renovating a clothing store in a strip mall outside the city. Nothing tremendous. I finished the proposal on a Friday morning and dropped it on his desk with a cheerful little note. Let me know what you think, while he was in a meeting with a new client in the conference room. Later that morning, Leon threw open his office door with a bang. "Amanda," he called, "come in here." I rushed to his office. He picked up a handful of papers off his desk and stared at me, his flabby face white with anger. "What the hell is this?" "I don't know." It looked like my proposal. Same heading, same format. My hands shook. I couldn't imagine what was wrong. Leon handed me the papers and I read the first line. "Leon Fields is a cocksucking faggot." I think that's really funny, and the tone continues throughout the entire book, and she's just battling against this demon who is a bit of an arsehole determined to mess up her entire life. I really enjoyed this one, would highly recommend it for this time of year, and that's what I think you should read. Before I wrap this up, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who participated in this video. I sent out a message really without expectation, and you have all put in so much effort and done such a marvellous job, and I'm hugely grateful. It's been really exciting to see this all come together, and I just hope I have done justice to all of your great contributions. To anyone out there watching, I think these clips capture in such a fantastic way the unique personality of each of these creators and what they bring to their videos, and I would highly encourage you to run, don't walk, to the description where I have linked everyone for you to go and subscribe to. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please do let me know in the comments if there are any books here that have piqued your interest, or make your own reading recommendations for autumn. But until next time, toodles.
Oh, what have I done? What have I done? Oh no, what have I done? Oh, why is everyone recommending? I thought Ben was recommending to us. No.